Welcome to a bonus episode here on Drew's Sports Crew. Look, we're talking sports as always, but a different take here on sports. We're talking about officiating in the state of Wisconsin, specifically here, with sports officials, right, referees. And I'm joined by one. I'm joined by a licensed WIAA official, Ryan Borchardt. Ryan, how are you doing here on this Saturday morning?
I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm doing well, and yeah, full disclosure here, you won't be hearing this episode, for like another week and a half from now. Again, as right, you'll be hearing this. I'll be on a study abroad trip actually here for a week. So again, we're doing a bonus episode here ahead of time. So YouTube, you hear it first, but again, you'll hear it everywhere else on a later date. And yeah, really, what we're talking about, we want to talk about, what problems our officials in the state of Wisconsin are facing. We're going to talk about solutions we have. Right, Ryan, you've been involved in it for a couple of years now, so you've certainly seen it, and we got to talk about things that have happened this past year because we're seeing things happen that we haven't seen ever, right? I mean, we were just talking about like the Germantown incident, right? For those who haven't heard, right? Actually, the PA announcer had to get involved because of how toxic the situation was. So I guess I know, like, you can speak upon, right, your experiences and just how have you felt the game, or especially for officials. How has that changed the last few years?
Well, I think that there's now a understanding of that there's a shortage of officials. So I think that administrators and kind of everybody that's involved with hiring officials kind of realizes that, and they're trying to find solutions to kind of help keep officials in the sport.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, there's people have recognized the shortage, but like, I'm wondering what I've always thought about is how did we get to the shortage? Was it the pandemic? Did the pandemic really drive it, and then people just weren't coming back? Like, how do we get to the shortage?
So the pandemic also had a major part in it. It kind of it for a lot of the older officials, it kind of said, I'm out of it for a year and kind of didn't want to come back. And we lost a lot of officials do that way. They just retired early. And also too, this parents have been out of control, and that's I think I heard a stat like 40% of the reasons why officials leave is because of the adult behavior in the stands, and so yeah.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. Like the fact you mentioned 40% being because of parents, really. No, I'm because it makes sense, right? The pandemic kind of being the driving force, but then right, these people not returning. Were you reffing at all like through the pandemic, or did you start
So I
after?
actually, yeah, I graduated high school in 2020, so I guess my seasons got cut short. But then the next year, when there was only like limited stands, it was nice for a young official coming in because you didn't have all the pressure from the adults and stuff. So it was nice not having to deal with it. So it's kind of nice grace period to work in, but it's just it was still wasn't the same.
Yeah, and again, we're talking more WIA. I guess like still we want to highlight like AAU, club ball, things like that because again, there's been a shortage there, right? I mean, haven't you like personal experience? I'm sure you've gotten because we've talked, right? You've gotten emails talking about hey, we need people to ref this tournament last minute.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I really don't do much AAU stuff, but definitely for youth tournaments and stuff too. Is that I mean, there's emails constantly going out that said, "Hey, we need officials last minute," and it's just kind of pick and choose of who you get.
Yeah, would you say isn't that like the best way to get in, honestly? Like cuz like full disclosure, I mean, I was actually a licensed official. I never actually like had I never used it, but I mean, I'd love to. It was for the 2021 to 2022 season. I was licensed because they had a thing. They were actually doing like free licensing for high school students
Hmm.
at the time. Uh, but like, isn't the best way to get in on that? Isn't it honestly starting with those youth tournaments?
Yeah, I think
Would you
so. I mean, you always have to start somewhere, and a great start if you want to start getting started is definitely these tournaments, or if like you're in college, intramurals is also a great way to get started too. So I mean, just kind of getting like these, I guess, low pressure games of youth stuff and intramurals is a great place to start.
Yeah, maybe I should have redid that introduction. I should have been like, multi-year experienced official Ryan Borchardt, WI licensed official, intramural, what is it, supervisor? I mean,
Yeah.
I should hit on all the points. So yeah, I mean, you've had the experience, right, going from intramural, high school, and kind of like
Hmm.
switching back and forth. Of course, the intramural being kind of a different atmosphere for sure.
Yep.
Um, But yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about coming back out. With the basketball.
Do it. I mean,
Obviously, we're
yeah,
talking
do it.
more basketball in this one, but I mean, we still you right. You want baseball games. You've done softball games,
Mm-hmm.
not football yet.
Nope.
But we isn't basketball the biggest shortage, right? We're experiencing, or is it in other sports as well?
I mean, the shortage is everywhere. I mean, no matter what sport you see, there's a shortage. It. I really don't know the numbers for every single sport, but I can just truly tell that there's a shortage everywhere, and we need officials everywhere.
Mm-hmm. And I guess like how easy now? Because I mean, I mentioned it was free to do for high school. I don't think that promo is going on anymore, but um, they do right now. It's the current fee, at least what I've seen, is $35 plus then $15 per sport. Right, so it's a
Yep.
fixed 35, and that's that
Yep.
variable based on how many sports you're doing.
Yep. So I think high schools are still free. You just need your AD's signature or whatever, and you send that to WA, and you're registered. So obviously, like you can do youth games and stuff like that too. I know that yes, you said the base $35 fee, and then I think certain sports there's no fee, but I think just a lot of the major sports there's that $15 fee.
Like yeah, like the sports that we mentioned: football,
Yep.
basketball, baseball. Um, the other thing is I want to add individuals that are current or retired military. Actually, the fees waived for the first 2 years
Hmm.
that you're doing it. I mean, that's something not many talk about. Um, and then it basically the process goes right. I mean, you submit the application, you're mailed the rule book, you're mailed training material, and then you take that exam after going through the material. And then what's the score again? It's like 90, 80%.
There's really no requirement. So like as the years go on, your score kind of determines your level.
Hmm.
So like the higher you get, I guess, on your test determines your level. But then obviously, if you don't reach that benchmark of what level you should be, you go down in levels too. So
Yeah, that makes sense. Because I want to talk about the leveling system too, because not many people know about this. I mean, we've talked about it before off the air, but
mhm.
um, like just how officials are actually rated. Like you might just think, okay, you go in, Ryan Borchardt goes in, refs a game, whatever, that's it. No, I mean, coaches actually have the ability to rate officials, right? I mean, you kind of talk more about that.
Yeah, so obviously WIA pushes coaches to rate officials because that's kind of how they determine like how far I guess or deep you should go in the playoffs. So obviously, like the highest number you get is like this ref should deserve state, and then there's as you go down the numbers, it kind of determines on where you should fall. Like talking with the signers and stuff, they kind of said really don't worry about your ratings and levels because they'll notice you. If they think they deserve your game, they're gonna give you the games. So I really don't focus too much on the ratings and levels as much, but yeah.
Yeah, I got you. So that's like so like on it, like you can see right you can see your rating at the end of the year, but you can't see it's anonymous of what a coach rated you, right?
Correct. Yeah. So I really don't look at, like I said, I don't look at the ratings too much, but like I heard from signers, you could be getting yelled at from a coach, and then all of a sudden you think you're going to get a bad score, but then you look back and they gave you a really good score. So it's just kind of, that's
Yeah.
why I
So
really don't look at it that much.
yeah, I mean, and just to highlight, like I mean, there's still like a rating process, through the games that people might not look at. Um, but I guess like we've talked about okay, so we lost people because of the pandemic, right? I mean, we lost
Yep.
referees that maybe didn't come back. We lost people because right parents. You mentioned 40% that number, but like why aren't we getting that young audience? That's kind of what I've thought about. Like how do we get and I'm saying how is like the WA? How do we get people like our age to go in and go ref?
I think they're starting to try to get coaches to kind of persuade their players to get into the sport. So obviously, like they know about it, and from back home, I've seen the signers like do a great job in youth, just going to high schools and hosting camps that if you're interested, you can help out or like get interested in do some games and stuff. But there's also a stat where 2 out of every 10 officials actually stay within the first 2 years of doing it. And the main
Wow.
concern of why they left was because of the parents too. So, it's not just at high school. It's just not at upper levels. It's all levels, even like third and fourth basketball games. They're still concerned about the parents.
20%. So you're telling me 20% like they retain 20% after 2 years, right?
Yep. Yep.
Wow. Okay, well that's another problem we have to highlight. But no, I think you bring up a great point. Like getting the players, getting the people, boys, girls, people who've been around the game for years, getting them right. So hey, your playing career might be done, but there's another opportunity to continue, right? Staying involved in the game of basketball, whether it's coaching, officiating. I think that's a great point. Well, something I've thought about is, I think intramurals is extremely underrated with officials. I think getting WIA, getting assigners, need to go to these colleges and talk with these officials, right? If you're doing it at this level, you could continue this after college. I think that's something that needs to be.
Hmm.
I think the WIA, quite frankly, needs to get involved more with intramurals. Whether right, I mean, it's at a college like a school like Milwaukee, any of these UWs, any of these private schools, let alone there's an opportunity there. If there's intramurals, there's officials. Really, I mean,
Hmm.
getting those students involved and potentially wherever they reside, and the opportunity because like we've talked about, of course you're getting paid for the games. There's potential too for some games, right? Gas mileage, right? Reimbursements there,
Hmm.
and just I mean, opportunity to watch a game, right? I mean, watch a high level game, whether if you're doing playoffs sometime, again, that takes time to get to, but if you're doing regional games, you get to watch a regional game. You get to, again, be a part of the game, right? I mean, it's something that's might look like, right, again, a high pressure situation like you've talked about, but like just right. I mean, is it like a thrill you experience when you ref? I guess can you kind of allude to talk more about that?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely, if kind of you don't feel anxious or like you don't want to do it, like you shouldn't ref, you should always want to do the game and you always should be happy for the game and just I mean, communicating with coaches and players and just interacting with them is just a really cool experience that I don't think you get anywhere else. It's just, you know.
Yeah, I'm wondering. Yeah, and we can talk more about your story specifically. Like, all right, right. I mean, you've had some great experience with coaches that I mean you've told me about too. Like just talking with them after the game, before the game, during the game, right? I mean, is there any specific ones that stand out to you?
Well, there's a lot of, there's definitely the good coaches and bad coaches. I necessarily don't get, I guess, a good rep because I'm a young official. And I mean, I agree with the coaches too. Like, you just don't know what you're going to get with a young guy or a new guy. But I mean, there's definitely some coaches that in my back of my mind that yes, they've treated me well and I really work well with. And there's some other coaches that, kind of don't get it well with me. And, I don't want to have a, I guess bad relationship with anybody. But, if I do their game again, you have to have a clean slate because, if you bring a bad rep into the next game, there's going to be problems.
Exactly, and bringing up right. We've talked about bringing up stuff from prior games. Like, come on. But okay, so some context here. Ryan's from Evansville, which again is in the Rock Valley Conference by Janesville. If you don't know where Janesville is, by Madison. We'll just say it's Madison. So he's over by where the state games are. We'll put it like that. But he's been down there. He's ref games down there. He's refed Milwaukee area games. He's refed intramurals. So he's refed in different different areas, different experiences, different atmospheres also. And then right, you've also ref baseball, softball,
Yep.
right? And you get boys and girls basketball. He's ref. So I did have a question, to talk. What would you say is like the best game you've ever ref to? I mean, that's what I was thinking about. Like, I know it's a tough one.
I think there was Living Word Lutheran. I forgot who they played, but it was just a really close game. Last second shot went in, and it was just, a lot of the people with the small schools think those games aren't fun. But personally, I really like the small schools a lot. You get I guess a lot of the home people, they always go to the high school games, and want to watch high school games because there's nothing else going on. So, I mean, just all those small school games, if they have a good crowd, those are always super fun to do.
Was that game this year or
Oh, that was last year.
last year? Living World. Was it boys or girls?
It was a boys' game.
Boys game. Gotcha. They're in the Midwest Classic Conference. No, and then the other thing about reffing too is like, I mean, you get to see, right, new areas of the right new areas in like the state, and also just new experiences, new high school gyms. You got to go
Hmm.
wherever that game was. No, but isn't the average age for officials like in the 50s? 40s,
Yes, I do believe it's 55 years old.
55. Wow. So keep in mind, yeah. Wow. I mean, that's kind of old. Who's the youngest guy you've refed with other than you, other than
Um,
your own self?
I think doing for varsity games, I think I've always been the youngest one. I think the next lowest guy I think was 24, 25 years old. So
Wow. So not many doing those. I mean, I've seen a lot of guys out of high school doing JV games. So I think that's a great way to
yeah.
get in.
Oh
I
yeah,
think
for
those
sure.
JV, because really, in terms of speed and stuff, like those JV boys and girls games are really like they're gonna really get you up to speed, with the game. Because of course, right, a
Hmm.
third and fourth grade game reffing is a lot different than a JV game in terms of pace, right? You know, um,
Yep.
and but getting involved in those is just great experience, great practice for right those varsity games. I've seen a lot of high
Hmm.
school, like former players exactly kind of route you've done, former player yourself. Get involved, do that. And I mean, I was in the stands, in high school watching the game. So I was the guy in the stands who would, yeah. I liked refing from the stands. I wasn't the vocal one from the stands alone, but I like to ref from the stands and call what I would call as people do. But I think
Hmm.
I think it gets bad. We've talked about when you get vocal about what you think was the call, and that's where we have incidents like the Germantown incident comes about. Right? You like to
Yep.
ref from the stands. I know you do.
Yeah, I do. If you ref is if you ref, there's you always look at the officials once in a while, no matter what, like college, NBA, you always watch them once in a while and just say, hey, it's also a good learning tool
Yeah.
too, because you watch them. It's like, oh, hey, maybe this situation was close to one of the situations I had in my games. How
Exactly.
did this official handle it? So
Like the point I'm making is everyone refs from the stands, right?
yep.
It's a matter of if you're vocal, and the issue that we've had, especially in Wisconsin. I think I'm gonna just throw some shade here. I think our state, especially at any level of these games, has done a really poor job, in terms of like just getting vocal about these calls, standing up and pointing at the official. I think that's where we're crossing these lines. It's that those interactions of singling out the officials is where. And you feel it's a accurate statement?
Yeah, and I don't mind if parents get a little rowdy too, because they a little like it too, But like, obviously, like you said, there's a line, and certain officials have a line that's farther away, and some lines are closer. So it just depends on where that line is, and I guess trying to find that happy line where everybody's at, and this is the
Yeah.
benchmark. You can't go over it, otherwise you don't get the right to be at the games anymore.
So again, there was that game at Germantown. It was a Warhawk invite, Brookfield Central Cedarburg. Actually, Joe Chapman on Twitter really made this viral. Again, this was nationwide being covered. Um, Basically, what happened right end of the game, questionable call. Well, questionable call meaning could have gone either way, maybe, and some parents didn't like the call that was made. Right, parents standing up, throwing their hands. The whole 9 yards. And then 80 comes on and tells literally tells the fans, I got the quote here. I would like to take this opportunity to remind all fans, and I should have done this a lot earlier. Shut up, is what he says. WIA is always looking for officials, and since you do a good job from the stands, which all of us do we think we do the best job from the stands? It's just a matter of how vocal you are. Get on the floor, wear a striped shirt, and do it yourselves. As an official, you directly, what'd you think?
I love that message. I mean, I don't think you needed to say shut up, but I mean, personally, I just like that message because it just has the respect of, the administrations that we interact with for the schools, that they actually do care about us, and that they also do realize they have an issue with finding officials. So just kind of, hey, we're trying to help you guys, and we're here to protect you and work with you guys. And, like some officials don't like going to some schools because administrations are bad. So, just kind of that and kind of having our back is just a huge plus, and we would want to go back there and work again.
Exactly. I mean, and that's good for good for the players, good for the fans. I think the message, right? We talk about the theme of the message, good. The way it was conveyed, maybe not the best, but
Yeah.
we do have to acknowledge, right? I mean, the heat of the situation. I
Hmm.
completely understand it. Um, I also right. I mean, we've talked about the game actually was deleted off the off of social. Like they deleted the game because of this.
Yep.
They didn't want the publicity of it. I understand, but I think a good a learning opportunity for a lot of right. Hopefully, parents.
Yep.
I mean, it made a lot of news. So
Yeah. And, especially making the national news, like this clip actually, if they parents watch this, maybe they're like the Germantown or whoever teams were playing at that time. They realize, oh crap, we actually have an official and official shortage, and maybe we should kind of start cleaning up our act a little bit.
yeah, I think that had to have been a key driver to why things were going on. But I think that was that was really a good message. That again that went to officials and important, right? And I hope now
Hmm.
WIA, we don't have exact numbers for next year's our official licensing. But when do you usually do that by?
Official. I think it opens up in June, and I think you have the whole month of June to register for the next year. I do believe. I can't remember exactly, but I think it's
I
at
got
the
you.
end of the sports seasons. So after the spring season.
I also want to talk about like time commitment for this because usually people say, "Oh, I don't have time to ref." You know,
Hmm.
can you kind of speak upon like how much time commitment is it really? If you're refing a school close by or whatnot.
I mean, what's so good about refing, you're technically an independent contractor. So, I mean, you get to create your own schedule. It just depends on how far you want to go. Like for me, I want to get as much games as possible and get my name out there more. So might drive a little farther just to get my name out there and make these signers happy so I can possibly get more games. And some people might just want to do JV games and they might want to just drive not too far. I mean, that's perfectly fine too, because we need officials everywhere. So I think there's definitely a spot for anybody if you want to do it. And if you communicate with your signers of what you want, they will make it happen.
Signers communication key. Shocker.
Yes.
That seems to be a rule for a lot of things. All right. Well, you're gonna have to make sure for intramural training though. Make sure if you're doing it in fall, I'll have to get in on the training for sure.
Hmm.
So I'm gonna do that. But what do you like? Last thing I really want to talk about here is like the future of officials. Like, what do we think? How do we think they're gonna solve it? Do you think they're gonna use like? I mean, talking WIA as a whole, right? So I'm talking about what the office is gonna do. What methods do we think they're gonna employ? You think pushing more out to high school intramurals, or what approach do you think they're gonna take?
I think they have to push youth. I mean, especially with the average age of officials being 55, you have to push youth. Otherwise, people who are 55 years old that I've talked to, they're done in 7 years, 7, 10 years. So if we don't start working young officials now, I hate to say it, but there might be, a crappy time for officials because they're not going to have experienced in the tough varsity level competition of games. So I think that the next 10 years are going to be really important to be pushing for the youth. And I think that some of the smaller schools or some schools might be pushing to neutral sites and coming in 4 teams in. And, varsity crew does the two varsity games that night. So
Oh,
obviously there's a lot of ways to approach on how to kind of, try compensating for the short of officials. But we really need to start pushing for youth and getting the youth out there and officiate.
wouldn't that be a nightmare though? Having to start doing things like that.
Uh, it
You're
kind of
talking
would
about
be
doing
more.
boys and girls back to back.
I think it depends. Like I've seen some conferences do that now. I think the North Shore is doing that a little bit of doing back to backs. I don't know if they have. Some might have keep the same crew for both games. Some might bring in a new crew, and it's more on what the schools want to do. But if they can't do games, they have to start compensating. To start doing that. So, like I said, next 10 years, we're going to see probably a lot of changes, and it's going to stick with that probably.
Wow. Yeah. I hope we don't get to that kind of point. So we gotta get officials involved. I mean, that's kind of we're talking about the shortage today. We want to we want to be people who can help alleviate this shortage, and that's kind of why we bring up some points we have today. And right, Ryan, you're a part of ending the shortage. That's what you're gonna do, right?
I'm trying my best.
You're just gonna have to ref more games, more and more games, because you got baseball this summer.
Yep.
Wait, how many games are you doing for baseball? Like 20, 30?
20 summer baseball games, and
Wow.
so
So end goal for refing.
my end goal,
Yeah.
Well, I want to push as far as I can for officiating. I don't know when that's going to stop, but I just want to keep advancing my careers. And
Basketball?
yes, for basketball, I want to just keep pushing. Hopefully, get into college and start doing college games.
Okay. I love it. And you would be done with high school then?
Uh,
Or would you
it just depends. I mean, I might keep, depending on where I live, I might keep my registration there. And, if I have a night
nice.
off, I might go to a high school game. So,
So we could still see around, maybe not in the Valders area, maybe not up by us in Northeast Wisconsin, but maybe you make a trip. If there's a tournament up there, maybe for state girls basketball. I mean, you're gonna have to
yeah,
go to the Resh,
yep.
so could see that in there, Ryan. But did you have anything else here as we talked our refing?
No, I think we kind of hit the main points. Like you said, you want to focus on the shortage, and I think we hit kind of key factors of what drives the shortage and maybe what we need to do to fix it. So,
Yeah, that's exactly what when we talked again. I'm going to reiterate, right? Coaches, maybe not even coaches, but ADs. We need to get and these young athletes, right? The seniors in high school, start with them. Talk about, even having the AD come into classes. I mean, like this is something that needs to happen. You're in the school, right? Come in, talk about perks of reffing. I mean, WI could even send out a simple PowerPoint, standardized PowerPoint. Everyone shares. Boom, boom, boom. This is how you sign up. Talk about it. Even the free promo stuff, like right, free for high school
hmm
seniors or
yep,
students in general
yep,
and talk about that. Get them involved, the youth, start them there. We got to that retention rate has to be higher than 20%.
yep.
So that's the other thing. Drive that up. And I know it's easier said than done, but we've talked some of the methods to do it in this episode. So keep all that in mind, and hopefully, Ryan, we'll see you reffing some college games here very soon.
Yeah,
Rooting for you. I hope. Well, first high school playoff games. Got to get those.
yep.
Well, I'll be sure to advertise that here on the show again, showing when Ryan Borchardt reffing his first ever playoff game. Check it out on YouTube. There you go. Again, Ryan, thank you for coming on today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Really appreciate
All
it.
right, and yeah, remember at Drew Sports Crew on all platforms, and thank you all for listening to another episode of Drew Sports Crew, the perfect podcast for you.